All right, so we'll start with some David Foster Wallace. The book is This Is Water. Some thoughts delivered on a significant occasion about living a compassionate life by David Foster Wallace. You and I have talked about this book. How many times do you think?
Definitely triple digits. I feel like
I think it probably has been triple digits.
Yeah.
When did I first talk to you about it? And when did I first give you a copy of it, do you think?
Ooh, talk to me about it. I'm not totally sure. Probably senior year of high school is when it first came up because it was something that you gave me as a graduation gift. Was that my senior year of high school or am I thinking college?
I don't know if I gave it to you before the end of college. I can't remember if it was in high school or if when you had come back to work strength summer camp. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that sounds right to me. I think when I came back for a summer, you gave it to me at the end of the summer.
Because we had been sort of talking about it. I had tried to include some of these lessons in like our breakdown at the end of sessions, and then we kept going with it. So I think that's right. Anyway, so we decided that we would open up to a random page in the book and read it. I think this is a really... Wait till you hear this one. I'm going to read both of them because this is actually clips from a speech, so the pages are incredibly short. So, okay, this is starting on page 88. Again, this is David speaking. Again, please don't think that I'm giving you moral advice or that I'm saying you are supposed to think this way or that anyone expects you to automatically do it because it's hard. It takes will and mental effort. And if you're like me, some days you won't be able to do it or else you just flat out won't want to. But most days, if you're aware enough to give yourself a choice, you can choose to look differently at this fat, dead-eyed, over-made-up lady who just screamed at her kid in the checkout line. Maybe she's not usually like this. Maybe she's been up 3 straight nights holding the hand of her husband who's dying of bone cancer. Or maybe this very lady is the low-wage clerk at the motor vehicles department who just yesterday helped your spouse resolve a nightmarish red tape problem through some small act of bureaucratic kindness. And that alone, I think you and I can appreciate those 2 pages. If anyone has not read this or watched it on YouTube, I think you should. But we said we'd use it as sort of a jumping off point, so jump.
Yeah, this actually, I've told people this before, maybe I've even said it on the podcast, but this is one of the first books I ever read where it really felt like it actually changed my life when I read it. And we've said before, I know in private conversation, that like it's one of those books where I will return to it every now and again because I feel like A, I need the reminders that come along with it, and B, like you can pick up on new things with every reading. And that particular piece is funny to me, or the page you turn to, I guess serendipitous might be a better word, just because like I'm not sure that there's a better time in like the world globally to be reminded of something like that. Obviously the larger message of the speech in the book is, choosing how to think. And I would say empathy is a pretty common theme throughout the book.
Yep.
And like, man, I've felt that, right? Like, especially in our profession, when we're dealing with young athletes, like you want to be empathetic because the truth is that none of us as coaches know what they're experiencing and they're going through, because it's the first generation since, many past to experience something like this.
And we're talking specifically about like the chaos caused by the lockdown, loss of season, loss of school, loss of camaraderie with classmates and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, sometimes you want to be empathetic and you want to be compassionate, and sometimes you just don't have it. Like I've had those days, unfortunately, where I've woken up and maybe I didn't sleep that well that night and I'm just slow getting started. And then I go to work with the kids and it's like, you forget all of that, and it can be easy to kind of like have it go to the wayside. And again, it's something that I try and remind myself of all the time, of like the fact that I don't know what they're going through and that it might be deeper than that, and that I can, hopefully potentially in my position help them through that.
Yeah.
But it's just so right to me that some days you just don't have it.
The capacity for empathy at that level.
Yeah.
Can I also add that some people, there is a whole host of ideas that come alongside this. One of them, the pushback for a lot of people is, why is it on me to constantly have empathy for others? For the kid who's late all the time, for the kid who ditches practice and doesn't communicate, for the woman who's yelling at her kid in the grocery store line, and I think the point of the book is it's not on you. You definitely don't have to, but if you can like sort of call it really, it's the adult version of emotion regulation and intentionality and being deliberate. So a lot of the things that we're about at the Good Athlete Project. So it's like you have a choice. You don't have to engage, you don't have to be empathetic. But I think what always stands out to me about the book is that like this small level of humility that gives you space between what happened and what the next steps might be. Next steps being like your behaviors or even just your emotional reactivity, in the presence of whatever just happened, that there is an element of choice within that. And that's important for people to understand. We've talked about Lisa Feldman Barrett on the podcast many, many times, but it's important for people to understand because I think we have more agency in the way we experience emotions than people think we do. Like emotion is not a cloud that sort of comes over you, it happens to you, and you just cross your fingers and hope that it leaves soon. There's agency. The brain is a prediction machine. It predicts what's going to happen and preps for whatever's about to happen before what happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, cortisol levels jump, your pupils dilate. You ready yourself to run before you see the teeth of the bear, right? That mechanism clicks in when you hear the rustle in the dark woods. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah.
And I actually just had a conversation about this last night with some athletes, and this kind of reminds me of the value of being deliberate about how you are going to respond to things so that you can sort of color your mind and react to things differently down the line. And let me bring it all the way through. Part of that section of the book is talking about sitting in traffic, right? And like I've been there. I know you've been there. It's so easy to just feel stressed, feel frustrated, have every person that cuts ahead of you, that person's clearly a jerk, whatever. It's hard to slow down and, like you said, try to have some empathy. Okay, and sometimes you feel like you don't have space for it, but I always think about this stuff in terms of like physical fitness. So you develop a fitness for empathy, just like you develop fitness for patience, a fitness for, running. The more routinely you do it and deliberately engage with it, the easier it is to call upon, the more of it you have. Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, first of all, the traffic example is like a funny one because I just think back to like the times I've been frustrated in traffic. First of all, the things I've said in my car to myself, I'm not proud of, nor would my mother be. I'm sorry,
Curse
Mom.
words? Alex, Can you admit to the audience? Curse words.
I would never.
Oh.
I would never. I plead the fifth.
Okay, fair.
But on top of it, too, like the amount of times I'm like, man, people are driving like such jerks today, but like somehow I'm not.
You're the only one on the road not driving like a jerk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why am I the only one that's obeying the laws and being kind to people? But the other thing that you said that kind of sparked something for me was the idea of like why do you have to be the one to have that mindset for other people?
Mm-hmm.
And my response to that also, in addition to everything that you said, would be you don't realize just how much better and easier your life will become if you can get yourself there.
Yep. Because
like traffic can be frustrating. It doesn't have to be. Because the truth is that, and everybody knows this, and we all forget it in the moment, like no matter how frustrated you get, it doesn't make the cars move faster.
Yep.
So you can approach it right. If you practice this and build your capacity for it, again, it's like you can choose to be frustrated and still get home at the same time, or be like, a little bit like, you know what? It is what it is.
Hey, I'm going to throw on a podcast. I'm going to deal with, yeah.
And so it's like, again, you can't, sometimes it's hard to keep your eyes downfield, so to speak.
Yeah.
And like know
I thought
that
you were gonna
like,
say eyes on the road, but,
Yeah.
but fair enough.
I don't know why on earth you would go there,
Right,
but
right.
yeah, I think it's a beneficial thing to teach
think-
yourself how to do.
I agree, and I agree completely, because the other thing I would say is, I get the frustration of, and I'll be honest, I felt it before. Like I'll go through a day and I'm like, man, why do I feel at the end of the day? Why do I feel like I've been called upon to be the bigger person in every situation I've been in today? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not always right about that. Okay. Sometimes I overestimate, just how empathetic I'm being, but why does it feel like I'm doing that? And it frustrates me, but I will tell you, I've sort of taught myself to think this way, that it no longer frustrates me, because I'm like, well, what's my other option? Hope that everyone takes care of their business and engages with me differently? First of all, it's never going to happen. It's also not as empowering as the alternative, right? Think of this idea, like you're in a sea of cars and you're the one with control. You're not crossing your fingers hoping everyone else is all of a sudden going to drive better or quicker or let you get to your destination faster. No, like you're in control. You are deciding how you are going to respond to what's at hand. And I think that's like, I think that is, it's such a powerful way to live. We've had access to a lot of different coaches and teams and all sorts of organizations over time. And I will tell you that one of the distinguishing factors between the ones that succeed and the ones that sort of constantly find themselves frustrated is that kind of mindset. You don't, just as a hypothetical example, you don't get an outcome you want. Instead of pointing fingers and said, who did this, whatever, it's an ownership thing. How could I have changed the outcome? And maybe it does come down to communicating with a member of the team who had to do something better. That's fine. That's fine to recognize. But it's in my opinion, in those cases, there's less a judgment of the person who didn't do their part than an assessment of the level of communication between the leader and the person who is supposed to do that thing, and moving from judgment and I would say emotional reactivity and all those things to assessment and thoughtfulness and logic and deliberation. That is such a powerful shift, and it's really hard to do. And coming back to this, it all comes down to shouldering that responsibility of choice in those uncertain moments.
Yeah.
You feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can't ever know how anyone else is feeling, even if they tell you, because you don't feel what they feel.
Right.
They don't feel what you feel.
Yeah.
So the idea of taking control for yourself and your own, what else is there?
Yeah.
Because you can't change somebody else and how they react or how they feel.
Right.
So, honestly, to me, in a way, it feels like the only choice you really have.
The only choice you have is to do your best to own your experience. Forgive yourself when things don't go well. Submit to the fact that there are other contextual factors that you don't have control of, and just own your piece. There is no other choice, and that's one of the things that that's why we throw that term beyond strength around, because if you do it right in the preparation, in the weight room, on the football field, whatever it might be, you're preparing to do that well down the road. You can't control what the person next to you is doing. You control your effort in the moment. You can recognize that there's pain in the moment, but you can sort of project forward and say, this pain just might be worth it if I push through. And if I engage with it correctly, if I don't lament the fact that my legs are sore from squatting, but appreciate the fact that my body is having this response to the assault of a heavy squat day and I'm getting better from it. It's subtle language differences that really do change your mind. In fact, what was the video series that you wanted to do once upon a time?
Oh man, been so many. I don't know what.
The one where we would talk about sort of funky things in the weight room.
Oh, deep squats.
Deep squats, like deep thoughts, but deep while squatting, which is a great idea. So I swear, was this planned? This was here?
I don't think so.
It was not planned. Okay. So the title of this book, this just happens to be a book of poetry I wrote when I was in grad school. It's called Colors of Mind. And Let me see if I can. Yeah, okay. So it starts with a quote from Basho, who's like an ancient haiku poet. And he wrote, "When a poet who has always been assiduous in the pursuit of his aim applies himself to an external object, the color of his mind naturally becomes a poem." I'm going to read that one more time. When a poet who has always been assiduous in the pursuit of his aim applies himself to an external object, the color of his mind naturally becomes a poem. And he was sort of notorious for coloring his mind intentionally. Meditation, mindfulness, and then just going out into the world and looking. And the way you interpret that freaking tree over there is different based on like the color of your mind. It would be so easy to be frustrated that tree isn't taller or more, well manicured. Or you could color your mind to have like this level of appreciation where it's like, what a fantastic tree. Or it just is what it is, a tree. You know what I mean? Like a judgment free. Anyway, I don't know. I hope I'm not getting too out there in the ether for some of the listeners, but it really does. It feels like that all aligns. You're making these, David Foster Wallace, you're making these intentional decisions in these moments of uncertainty and potentially chaos over and over and over again, essentially coloring your mind. That's where the fitness comes in, because the next chaotic or challenging situation that you encounter, you'll interact with that differently because of the internal between the ears practice that you've been undertaking for however long.